Hey everybody, this is Faris.
And this is Faris Flournoy, and welcome to another episode of the Homecare Guyz podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Caleb. We're at another week, man.
Another week strong. Faris, how's everything going with you, man?
Man, everything's coming along well, man. I'm super proud, man. We've been very consistent on this journey. It's been exciting, man. I think, just like I said, starting a podcast can come with its challenges.
Right.
But the thing that I'm most proud about is, man, just like I said, where we're going, staying focused on our why, just kind of just doing this and getting a chance to go through and put out content weekly so people can go through and just follow our journey and can kind of get educated along the way.
You know what? It's been a journey. You know, this has really been, I'm proud of us too, Faris. We are being really consistent with delivering our podcast, and I'm just excited about what we got going on. I know right now we're in our studio. Actually, you know, our backdrop is different today because we're actually building out our studio, and so we have contractors doing sheetrock and putting new flooring in and light fixtures and all types of stuff. So it's going to be quite a surprise when you see our setup within the next week or so.
Yeah, I'm super excited because, Caleb, it's beautiful to go through and have an idea in your mind, but to see it actually actualize in real life, that's something that I think it's a dream come true. Just being able to have our own studio that we can call home and being able to record great content, being able to go through and invite guests in to come into the interview. I mean, this is only the beginning.
I am excited for, I can't wait to just see how everything goes in and how the big picture and the outcome looks.
And one thing I kind of like about this, Caleb, is because this just did not happen. I remember about this time last year when we kind of wrote out our vivid vision, and which we're going to talk about a little bit today. Wrote out our vivid vision. This was one of the things that we actually wrote on paper that we were going to go through and do in 2021.
Right.
And it's amazing, man. We're on the fourth quarter, almost a month and a half left of the year, and we will have it done next week. So when you tune in next week, you'll see a brand new setup as well. It's just amazing, Caleb.
That's why it's important to just write it down. We're going to talk about the vision. It's important to write down your vision. And even though it may have taken us 11 months to accomplish, but we're still within the year.
Exactly, man. Well, let's kind of take everybody on this journey of like why we actually started doing vivid visions, what a vivid vision is, and let's kind of talk about our trip because we recently just came back from Cancun, Mexico. So we just came back from Cancun, Mexico, because one thing that we realized that it's so important for our atmosphere to be right, especially when we're writing a vision that includes so many people. Right. So we had to go through and actually take away the distraction. I know many of you may be thinking, well, hold up, you all went to Cancun to take away distractions. Caleb, we stayed on the countryside.
Well, let me tell you this. So about this before we go into the conversation where you'll get all your gems, but we stayed in it was a nice little Airbnb villa. It was overlooking the ocean. It was overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, and it was nice and quaint. It was a 2-bedroom villa, had an infinity pool, but it was like 25 minutes from the hotel district. Yeah. And I was like, oh, Faris, like, well, we need to be like near the action. He was like, nah, we need to be in a place where we could really concentrate and really focus on our vivid vision, because that's what we're doing. When you write your vision in life, you want to be removed from different distractions. And so I was anticipating a true workcation, really having some fun, but we really did have a great workation, and we really got focused and handle business there.
Exactly. And I think that's the important part of it is, like, of course, Caleb knows how I am. Caleb was like, he wanted to go there and run on the beach. I'm like, hey, we have the Gulf there, but there's no beach there. But it was so important for us to go through and actually give that time where we can kind of build our brotherly bond, but also focus on the big picture of where the organization is going, because we are very cautious and we're very conscious of actually what we write down on paper, because we realize what we write down, it actually happens. And that's where our conversation will lead to about our vivid vision. I know a few years ago, we
started the vivid vision, what, like 4 years or 5 years ago?
About 4 years ago, I read a book from Harold Cameron. I can't think of the book's name, but he talked about the vivid vision, the painted picture. He talked about being able to go through and actually put the things down on paper where you see yourself in the future, regardless if you're business, family, or whatever. And so we chose to do this in business. And ever since then, we started off with a one-page document. I think, Caleb, now our vivid vision is almost like, what, 25 to 30 pages?
It's a long because it's detailed. So this is, okay, this week we're getting ready to start the conversation. So if you're a healthcare business owner, if you are just an individual that needs to write a vision for yourself, these are actionable items that you could listen and and start with writing your vision down. And so as a healthcare provider, we do that every year for each of our businesses because we want each of our businesses to be successful. So we're going to tell you how we write our vivid vision for our business.
Exactly. So we'll start off first with like, what is a vivid vision? A vivid vision actually is a painted picture which brings clarity to where you're going. You should be able to go through and write down in detail to where you see yourself, where you see your organization, where you see your team, and they should be able to take that document and see themselves within the organization, see themselves within your future. And what it does is just bring clarity. It goes through and highlight the importance of actually the things that's going on within the future in the organization as well.
Well, if you look at it, like if you just go to work every day, without a why, without any kind of vision, ultimately goals will not be achieved because you wouldn't have any goals to even set. And so I would encourage you guys to get your pencils, get your papers, take a day take a few hours and write down what is important to you. And so I think, Faris, what we did was we figured out that we could go aimlessly throughout life and with running a business, or we can really be direct and really try to achieve goals. And so that's why we did the vivid vision. And so one of the things that we did, the first thing was we wrote down our why. Yeah. And our why was so important. Why do we want to achieve this goal next year? Why do we want to service these many clients or patients this year? Why do we want our leadership to develop and to grow to strong leaders? Why? We kept asking why. And so that's one thing I would encourage you to start by asking why.
Yep. And
what is the why?
And it's so important. I think Simon Sinek wrote a book called Everything Starts with Why. And that's one thing, is understanding the why. And we end up realizing why we do what we do. And it's so many different components to that. But one thing we wrote down was one reason why we do what we do is because we want people to realize the quality of life and creating a quality life for their loved ones. That's one reason. I know specifically for our structured family caregiving program, Caleb, right, it's so important for family members to be able to create lasting memories with their loved ones, because we have a limited amount of time here on earth. And it's so important if we can go through and be the vessel that people can go through and make more memories with their loved one, their mom, dad, their cousin, their brother, their sister. Right. These are things that that ignites us and allows us to go through and actually dream even bigger, to go through and see how can we touch even more people to allow them to actually do what they do. Because Caleb, I want you to go through and reflect on this. Remember back before we had a vivid vision, like kind of how did we typically end our year? How did we typically, what was, do you remember? I distinctly remember.
Let me see. How did we end our year? Okay. So that means we have to go back then, 5 years. How did we end our year? Well, I know we ended our year. Well, we always threw a party, believe it or not. So we just celebrated. Like, we made it. We got everything. We used to host a great party every year for all of our caregivers and our referral partners. So I can remember we celebrated, but really and truly, like we didn't have anything to push us for the next year.
Yeah. And what happened was, what we never did was we never gave any people instructions on what to achieve the next year.
That's true.
We were just celebrating like we made it another year, 2 years down, 3 years down, 4 years.
And everything.
We were having a good time.
Yeah, all of it.
But what it left was, it left a lot of opportunity for people to go through and actually make their own plans within the organization, right, instead of us being leaders of the organization and taking the bull by the horn and say, hey, this is where we're going. So we lost a lot of great people that should have been with the organization because we didn't give clarity. Right. And the vivid vision, it gives a painted picture of clarity, because again, they should see themselves where they're going, because no one's not going to follow anyone just because they're in the front of the line. Right. Because eventually someone else will jump in the front of the line.
Well, let me just give you a few topics of what we wrote down for our vivid vision. So these are some topics that you can pretty much kind of write down for your businesses or your life. So what is your mission? Okay, write that down. What is your core values? Your culture, what you want your culture to look like. Yeah. That's one thing that Faris, we didn't even really discuss when we before we had our vision. We just said people come to work, they come to work. We didn't think about producing a culture and environment that would allow them to excel. How do we want our offices to look like? How do we want them to, we got down to even how we want them to smell. And so you want to put down the color, the aesthetic, how you want your offices, how you want the chairs. Yep. Our leadership. What is our leadership looking like in 2022?
Yep.
Okay, Faris, you can talk on a little bit more. Our clients, what demographic of clients are we looking at? Even financial goals and census. All of these things are things that you want to write down on your vivid vision. From what your team looks like, the different programs, all of that.
And I think it's so important to be as detailed as possible because, just like I said, people want something they can run with.
Exactly.
People want to be able to go through and pick up the paper to go through and say, "Hey, I have your back. Let's go." They know where the finish line is, or they know where the next loop around this marathon is at as well. So I think that's so important, and those key components is so important to have within that because that just goes through. It shows that you thought about it.
Exactly.
Instead of shooting off the whim, because you'll see a lot of times in business, people, what they do is you can tell a lot of shifting and stuff like that because one day they're doing this, one day they're doing that instead of following a plan. That was us.
I about to say, I can remember that for us.
Brother.
We would go in and we would change a policy and everybody would get upset. Like, why are they changing policies now? And then we'll go in the next day, we'll rearrange
the office.
we would do so much, but we didn't have our vision. We didn't have a plan, a solid plan. And so once you write that plan for you, especially for entrepreneurs,
yes.
Once you write your plan down, you definitely write it down, definitely see it. One other component that we did look at it, we wrote down our action plan. And so how we typically do our action plan, Faris, is we do it based on the months. And so from January, February, March, we figure out what do we need to do for each month. From trainings to what do we want to achieve to different program development for writing policies. We wrote that down for each entire month for the entire year. And so we know training dates are going to be in August. We know workshops that we're going to have in October. We know retreats that we're going to do in April. And so you want to write a detailed action plan. Your action plan is where you're going to spend the most time.
And I think, Caleb, when you're writing it, I think it's so important, just like we talked about earlier, is being able to kind of couple that with creating SMART goals. And I think as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as family leaders, whatever, you have to create SMART goals because, again, if your goals are not SMART, which stands for specific. If for some reason, no one gets in the car and just drive around all day. No one gets in the car and just drive around all day. People, if I'm going to Walmart, I'm knowing specifically where I'm going. It's measurable. It's like, okay, I know it's going to take me 3 miles to get to Walmart. Is it attainable? Okay, well, hey, if I'm driving my car, can I get there in today's time within 10, 15 minutes if it's 3 miles?
Right.
Is it relevant? Like, okay, am I going the back road? Am I going around, or am I going a direct route to get there? And is it time specific? So I know I'm going to get there within a certain time frame. It's so important that as we go through and make goals, we don't just kind of go through and say, hey, we want to go through and take over the world. We want to go through and to have 100 clients. We want to go through and take care of as many clients as we can. That does not give any specifics or anything.
It's not. I think back in the day when we started, our goal was, okay, well, you wanted to grow your organization, grow your business. And so we said, you know what, we want to service a lot of clients, as many as we can. We didn't have a specific measurable goal. And so I would start off, especially if you're a younger home care agency or if you're a younger healthcare business or whatever business that you do have, initially start off with those little realistic goals. If that means, the first quarter you want to attain 5 to 10 new members, great. So you know what you're working toward each day to each month. And so when that review period comes within that quarter, you can see if you achieve that goal or not. Instead of saying, you want to service 1 million people, unless you're in every state and pretty much in every country and around the world, you can achieve that goal. But I would encourage you guys to do SMART goals, just like Faris said: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, or relevant and timely.
Exactly. And Caleb, I think now we've come to a point right here in the conversation where I think individuals can lean in a little bit more, because after we've actually discussed and people understand what a vivid vision is, after they understand how to create SMART goals, after they understand their why, it's so important that individuals learn how to execute, because that's one thing. All this stuff is just talking unless you execute. So, Caleb, let's kind of pick up that conversations. I know we talked about 3 different ways that we can better execute our plan. So kind of, you go over the first one, man.
Well, the first one, in order to execute your plan, you have to sharpen your focus, and you have to be laser focused. You have to think about it. I remember this experiment, especially with the sun and the magnifying glass. And then if you keep that magnifying glass on the object long enough with direct sun, it will start burning. I think it was a piece of paper. You put a piece of paper underneath the magnifying glass, and it will burn it because it was focused. You you want to be so laser focused on your goals that guess what? That it starts to burn. That it starts to ignite. And so anything that's out of your focus is like a distraction.
Correct.
And so I read a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's talked about focus. Most people and most successful people are focus driven. If it's out of there, if it's a distraction, they're not worried about it. So I would encourage you to focus on your vision. Write your plan and focus.
Yep. And that's so important. And the next thing, that's one of the next tools, is to go through and build competency.
Yes.
I think, who wants to follow an incompetent leader? Who wants to follow a fool? Like, nobody wants to follow a fool. So I think it's so important as leaders, you didn't say fool. I said a fool. There's a bunch of fools out here too. But my thing is, it's so important to go through and invest in yourself, invest in your team, invest in the systems as well, and not be afraid of that investment, because those are the things that are truly going to be impactful. So it's going to go through and build up competency. If you invest in yourself and you truly learn what you're going, that skill set, not just saying, hey, I'm a CEO or I'm a boss or whatever, but going through and putting in the work to understand what a spreadsheet is, how to go through and measure KPIs. What are those? Like, you should understand certain terminologies if you're in. It's like being a nurse but not knowing what diagnoses are.
Exactly.
Or being a cop and not knowing how to shoot a gun.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother story. But that's one thing, is understanding competency. I remember when I was in the military, we had to go to the gun range. Speaking of that, I think every 6 months or something like that, to go through and actually remain competent in shooting our weapons as well. So what better, if the military trains me to go through and actually continue to have continual education and gain competency, I know the same thing in business. It's going to be required of me to go through and lead an organization that have thousands of lives that are depending on us every day to go through and actually make sure they get the best services possible. Right.
And that competency is a really key point.
It is,
because that's deep right there. And last but not least is ignite your passion. And so you want to pretty much kind of just be so passionate about it. You want to be proactive in your approach. You want to just think about, if that's your goal is execution. You want to be excited about it. It's nothing like an excited person that comes around you. They can remove all their negative energy from you. You can change an environment. And so, especially as a department head in our division, I do our pediatric program with our company. I'm always excited, especially when I talk to my team. I'm always excited, even when I'm speaking to the family members of some of our disabled children, because they need to see, that my passion is why they chose our organization.
Exactly.
And so you want to ignite. So as a CEO, as a healthcare owner, as a CEO of your life, you want to be excited about your life.
Of course.
Who wants to go around and be around someone that's not excited, or that's a negative person? Man,
I think that's so important, because a passionate person is going to show those emotions. It's going to be exuded. And those are the things right there, I think, Caleb, if we go through and follow those 3 steps, this is how you execute. This is how you go in and actually put that vivid vision to work for you. And I think those are the things that I think in 2022, if you go through and actually get that vision big enough, not no small vision, get the vision big enough, create those SMART goals, go through and understand your why and execute, I think 2022 will be an amazing year, and it will go through and reward you generously. It's going to be super, super amazing. Well, there you have it. We talked about this vivid vision, guys. This vivid vision is amazing. You have to have it for your life. You have to have it for your business if you want your business to strive. And if you have not started your vivid vision now, you're already late for 2022. Yes. And so I would encourage you to start. Activate your plan. Take the time necessarily you need to write out a detailed plan. Habakkuk 2:2 said, write the vision and make it plain. Yes. And so you want to make your vision plain. Exactly, man. Well, there you have it, man. There's another great episode of the Homecare Guyz, man. Tell them how they can follow us and subscribe. Well, definitely, I want you to listen to where all platforms are heard. So Spotify, Anchor, please listen. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Homecare Guyz with the Z, and definitely follow us and put the notification on Spotify so you can be aware whenever we have have a new podcast out. Okay. Exactly. Well, there you have it, guys. There goes another episode of the Homecare Guyz. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to actually give you the next best great episode next time. Yes. Peace.